How are you?
Portion of our committee.
Thank you for your. Yes.
We have a closed session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one of the close that have, yeah.
For the full board. Yeah. Don't mind.
No, that's fine. I just need to.
Just read us in and out.
That's right here.
So.
Right?
So we're live, so it's assuming that.
Good morning.
Close here.
Well, I just not.
A lot of it.
We got this, guys.
And the parking.
One of my Porta VRE socks to bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is everything?
Secretary, you got.
I have many pairs, but I gotta tell you, they're socks. Socks, I wear them just regularly. They're good, like, most of my socks are like, just the socks, it's like good, like two.
It's not for the reasons.
Just to give you all an update, we are waiting on Mike McLaughlin, who will give us quorum. So everybody cheer for Mike.
So we had a pretty good.
Madam Chair, I'm here.
Oh, I hear Miss Bailey.
Pretty much.
Oh, was that Miss Bailey?
I'm letting you know I'm quarantined or
We hear you.
quarantined. I'm here.
We know you're here. We're waiting to Gab. Yeah. We need one more piece.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
This is when I was talking about COVID and all of that, like I always.
Nothing's on the traffic or. Problem.
Oh, it's.
That wasn't. No.
My kids, but it's good.
Oh. We're coming north on where? But for me.
Want to look.
Oh, you look far?
No.
Oh, the map.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna call ourselves to order and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Mr. Stork and Miss Bailey have both requested to participate in the meeting remotely.
Motion.
I love the energy, but let me do a little more housekeeping real quick. Miss Bailey, so we have a quorum physically present, so we can take a motion in just a moment. Miss Bailey is here, and we'll move her and join her in. Mr. Stork hasn't joined yet. Our clerk will update us when he has joined, and I'll make sure the room is aware. But for now, we're going to, I've heard a motion. Is there a second to allow Stork and Miss Bailey to participate electronically? Second. Okay, so I think it was Dr. Young's motion and Ms. Holmes's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so Ms. Bailey, welcome.
Chair, we need
Yes.
to do a roll
Oh, it's a roll call. I'm sorry, I saw a voice vote.
Yes, okay, thank you. Ms. Bagley,
Aye.
Ms. Bailey,
Aye.
Mr. Stork, Ms. Hayes,
Aye.
Ms. Bonke,
Aye.
Ms. Franklin,
Aye.
Mr. Gordy.
Aye.
Ms. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Karantonis, Ms. Vasquez Luna, Mr. McLaughlin,
Here.
Ms. Mensing,
Yes.
Mr. Walkinshaw, and Dr. Young,
The same thing.
and Madam.
Okay.
That's what I heard today.
Okay, all right, I skipped the roll. You're right. I jumped right into the electronic meeting. So we've called our roll. We have a quorum. And just for due diligence purposes, we had a motion on the floor to allow Mr. Stork and Miss Bailey to participate electronically. Could I get all those in favor again on that motion?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so Miss Bailey, you are welcome to join us moving forward, and I will try to remember to call out a request for your vote on each item first. And the clerk will update us when Mr. Stork joins us. All right,
Thank
with
you.
that, with that, Rich?
Physical sign if you need a reminder.
Yeah, thank you. A safety briefing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've made some assignments already covering 911, AED, CPR. Just wanted to just remind folks the primary evacuation route out of this room will be through the double wooden doors. We will not take the elevator. We will take the stairs and drop down to the lower level. And as long as there's no obstructions or anything, muster out in the circle area out there. So other than that, walk to space previously, there's no particularly in and around the restrooms and the kitchen and everything. No slipping or trip hazards or any of that type of stuff that presented itself. So that is my safety moment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, you all were provided the agenda in advance of today's meeting. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda? Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Any opposed? I hear none. Okay, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the April 18th, 2025 VRE Ops Board meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or amendments to the minutes? Ms. Bailey, any corrections or amendments?
No, ma'am.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Ms. Bailey, how do you vote?
Aye.
All those in the room in favor? Any opposed? All right, the minutes, oh, Ms. Franklin.
Just want to abstain.
Sure. Can the clerk note the abstention?
Abstain as well.
And Ms. Hayes. All right, so the motion passes with 2 abstentions. Moving right along to Chair's comments. That's me. Welcome to the May Ops Board meeting. A reminder to everybody, the CLO and General Counsel Selection Committee will meet after the Ops Board meeting adjourns. I'd ask that staff and guests exit the boardroom as expeditiously as possible following the adjournment of this meeting. Also, VRE's Meet the Management series will wrap up Wednesday, May 21st at the Franconia Springfield Station ahead of Memorial Day weekend. And I don't know if y'all have been following on social media, but they've been going really great. And there's been a lot of really great interaction, and we'll probably get a comment on that. Those are my opening comments. I'll hand it over to Rich for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And
Welcome, Takis.
okay.
I apologize. I can blame my 95 for the weather.
Just real quick on a safety topic, as I mentioned last month, through the next subsequent months, taking our visual monitoring signs and stuff like that, or sign singular, out to the various crossings. I mentioned Mine Road at Spotsylvania County. One thing, of course, the uniqueness of this crossing out there is that we can't just go and set the visual up on just one side of the road or the other, so we have to continue to move this around because it's like a T intersection and all that. Anyway, all of that to say, we'll be moving to Brent Point Road, I think next week ahead of the Memorial Day weekend. But we'll just continue that. Just want to just emphasize anything that as it relates to board members, jurisdictions and stuff, anything that we can be doing, coordinating with staff as it relates to getting awareness out there at railroad grade crossings. We want to be, part of the solution, if you will. So, and particularly as we head into summer months, hence the reason why we'll go out to Brent Point Road. But just wanted to, there'll be some folks that'll be out there that are unfamiliar with these crossings and stuff, and we want to make them aware. So anyway, just wanted to put an additional explanation on that. Moving on-time performance, we did slip down below even the 80% threshold, which is obviously not at our 90% target. I'll just cut through the chase. What we saw from a congestion standpoint, we still saw, similar congestion that we had out there, but in the month of April, we did encounter some weather delays, several or at least a few heat orders that we had out there in the month of April. So and for example, like with high wind warnings and stuff like that, we have to stop all trains at stations. And some of those delays, and I'm sure all of us can sit here and go, yeah, we were part of that weather. So anyway, but still not where we want to be reliability wise, but still maintaining, safety is the focus out there when it comes to operations of trains. So did want to jump up to ridership. We continue to see a positive trend, even above what we saw in March, although we had one more service day in the month of April. Still a positive increase, and definitely compared to previous months. We continue to see, actually, I think we're seeing a little bit more, we are seeing a little bit more variability within the week right now, and that might be prefacing, just the time of year we are. We're interested to see what the summer will bring us from, from that perspective, if you will, if the summer patterns change on us, but we'll be watching it closely. But just rest assured, we have saved seats out there for a whole bunch of folks. So come on out. We've got a seat out there for you. And then, of course, average daily ridership popped up there as well. Glad to support yesterday, actually, the national Bike to Work event. Several board members and staff and others at various locations. So that's always a good annual event. I think our unofficial consensus is we prefer to do it on Thursdays and not Fridays. As most of you know, it typically occurs on the Friday of our May meeting. So we're able to support that a lot more, if you will, if it's not on the same day as a board meeting. So that was fun. Great train race. Awesome. It was an awesome event. As predicted, it rained the entire time. But at least the temperature was up, but it didn't matter because, for the several hundred kids that were out there, they were soaking wet, having a blast. So, but yeah, it was a great event that we did. I do want to report that we are having a slight change, if you will, in our public affairs division. First, I'd like to welcome Lindsay Martin as our new public affairs administrator. Oh, no, you don't wave. So Lindsay is a seasoned communication veteran who comes to VRE from MWCOG, for those that are familiar with that. Previously, she worked as an aide to Fairfax County Board of Supervisor chairs, both Sharon Bulova and Jeff McKay. She's an alum of James Madison and an alum of American University. So we want to take a moment to welcome you. I just also wanted to state that, and you're going to have to stand up too, Karen. So Lindsay is coming in to replace Karen, who's actually retiring here 2 weeks from today.
Wow.
I can sit here for, hours, minutes, hours, days, if you will, and really, from an accolade standpoint, we'll have obviously opportunities to do that. I just wanted to, just emphasize with Karen, she came to us actually directly from NVTC. Just brought a lot of experience with her, and I, you know, in a moment where we had a lot of things going on, like PTC implementation for those that were here for that, that event or series of events, but, and then of course through the pandemic and stuff. So it's just, great to have, Karen's experience here throughout that time. I will also say that maybe unlike other organizations, when you retire from VRE, we still have our hooks in you. So Karen will return in December for Santa trains as a Mrs. Claus. So there's always that little, anyway, just wanted to recognize, both Lindsay and Karen. That's my report, Madam Chair.
It's more of a candy cane than a hook.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to add to that. I mean, I think seeing Karen's email in my inbox every Friday is very much like my weekly connection to the organization, you know, and I'm like, oh, here's VRE. So I just want to express, you know, my appreciation for the work she's done. Every VRE public facing event I've been to, you know, Karen is there with a, you know, the appropriate, you know, hat, whether it's St. Patrick's Day or, you know, VRE free passes to hand out. And so I really appreciate her service to the organization and just want to express that on behalf of the board. And so congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Franklin.
I think Bailey was first.
Oh, Ms. Bailey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. Thank you, Ms. Beck. Look, Karen, you can't go. That's all I wanted to say. And thank you so much for all that you do for us and making sure that we are in the right spot, in the right places, you know, and just taking care of us. And I wish you much happiness on your retirement.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. I will address Karen during my comments later, but wanted to just acknowledge Lindsay. We got a chance to hang out for a couple of hours at Bike to Work Day. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and also say that in Prince William, at least at my stops, you know, 8 to 10 people, we think is pretty good. But then it was revealed that Arlington has like 200 people that sign up. So now I got to wage war on Arlington for Bike to Work Day. But we had an awesome time, and Lindsay did an amazing job. I'm kind of switching gears a little bit to ridership. We were having a conversation at our board meeting, both about OmniRide and VRE. And I know we get the monthly updates. If we can send that maybe to our transportation officials to send out to the rest of the board so that they are aware of the progress that's being made on both of our bus and rail. I think it'll be helpful, just some of the internal discussions we have at our own board meetings. So just flagging that.
From, just clarification from the board meeting, because you
Yeah,
know,
these are all public, but we can just flag this for our transportation officials to send out to our board members.
okay.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Bailey?
No, I thank you, Ms. Franklin, for saying that. I was trying to decide what was the appropriate time, but as usual, you always know the appropriate time. So thank you so much for mentioning that. I think it's very essential that we pass on that information to our board members. I know we're on the board, but it you know, as we talk, the precision of that, the documented precision of that is essential. Thank you, Ms. Franklin.
I had a quick question about the weather impacts that you mentioned. And is there a point in the summer that we actually modify the schedule in anticipation of heat orders? And
I was actually.
oh, sorry, did I get?
No, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you for the segue.
Okay.
And my final comment is, yes, we will be moving to our seasonal schedule. It'll be the Tuesday right after Memorial Day. And we will operate, we've got a slight twist this year. It's still the same seasonal schedule, but we're going to operate that through the end of September, December or September 30th. And we are going to look at it again now that or after we get through the month of May. I think we should extend that even on the front end, maybe to the month of May. But we definitely know we have enough data that shows, I think the first 3 weeks of the month of September, we're still getting really hammered with heat orders and stuff like that. So that's why we elected to extend it this year. So just be looking out for that.
No, I appreciate that. And I think it's another way that I think climate change is impacting even, the schedule of our trains. So with that, we will move on to Virginia Railways Express Riders public comment. VRE accepts public comment both in person and electronically via the VRE website. Members of the public wishing to make public comments have 3 minutes and should state their full name and the jurisdiction they live in. Written comments submitted before 8 a.m. this morning will be forwarded to the members of the board and attached to the official minutes. Do we have any members of the public here who would like to address the board? Right, I'm not seeing any hands. Madam Clerk, do we have any electronically submitted comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one electronically submitted comment that was forwarded to the members this morning.
Okay. Right, without further discussion on that, we will move into our consent agenda. I think that we had discussed potentially doing these in a block.
Consent agenda is just ask for approval.
Yeah, so
For the consent.
So we have the consent agenda items 9A, B, and C. We can move to approve the consent agenda entirely if anybody wants to make that motion. Alternatively, if there's any specific item someone wants to call out, please let me know. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move, Madam Chair.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Gordy and we'll call Ms. Bailey the second. Any discussion on approving the consent agenda items 9A, B, and C? All right, hearing none. Ms. Bailey, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, everyone in the room who is in support of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any abstentions? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to action item 10A, authorization to execute a contract for mechanical engineering consulting services for VRE rolling stock and mechanical operations. Rich, if you could discuss the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're seeking authorization to award MEC 8 to Raul Bravo Associates of Ruston, Virginia, for a contract authorization in the amount stated in the resolution for a period of 4 years or a total of $24 million. Just want to remind folks, we had a little bit of discussion about this when I originally came to you to get authorization for solicitation. This is just a very important consulting contract for us. As it has been in the past. Moving forward, it will obviously help us more specifically on our our rolling stock equipment, locomotives, and passenger cars, with all the different programs we have going on, up to and including even like our new car procurement. I would anticipate in the next 5 years, we're looking at, the need for a technical specification for the next generation of VRE locomotives and stuff like that. So again, we talked about that a little bit before, but just want to reemphasize this is important to us, and as the background indicated, we had 2 firms, and the technical evaluation team had recommended Raul Bravo and Associates. And moving forward, I may just refer to that as RBA. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
All right, any questions or discussion on the item? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second? All right, there's been a motion by Ms. Hayes, a second by Mr. Karantonis. Any further discussion? All right, Ms. Bailey, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, all those in favor in the room?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes for 10A. Moving to 10B, recommend authorization to execute an amendment to extend the contract for operating services for commuter rail for 1 year. Rich, could you please discuss?
Madam Chair, yes, as the recommendation states, what we're seeking to do here is essentially 2 things: extend the existing operating agreement with Keolis Rail Services Virginia for 1 year, and that would be from July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And then the next part of that is something that you've seen frankly, for I think the last 15 years at this meeting this month, is to amend their current agreement to essentially amend it for a contract value that's equivalent to what the fiscal year 2026 budget is that you've approved previously. So I'll keep it that simple. If you have any questions, I'll answer them, but that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item?
Yeah, you kind of explained what the question I had was, why just 1 year? And it sounds like that was the expiration time and then plans to, because I was thinking, saving money if you extend it long enough that it's worth it out. But thank you for the explanation.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's an important distinction. This isn't typically the length of time we would do for a contract like this. Okay.
And remember, we're active solicitation for a new contract.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussions on the item? All right, hearing none. Ms. Bailey, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, all those in the room in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item 10B is approved. Item 10C, recommend authorization to execute an amendment to the 5th year of the first option period of the contract for maintenance services for commuter rail. Rich, if you could introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to the previous one, except this really just has one element to it, which is we are, the resolution will effectively just change or update the contract value again for the fiscal year 2026 budget that you approved previously. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I was looking at the figures. Any questions or discussion on this item? Ms. Bailey? Okay.
No
well-
discussion, no discussion.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, well, not hearing any questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved?
Okay, we've got a motion by Ms. Bailey, a second by Dr. Young. Any further questions or comments on the item? Ms. Bomke?
Yeah, it just, so the mandated annual increase is 2.6%. So that's exactly where we are. Is that correct?
So this contract has, so for the fixed, for the fixed amount for that, for this contract, and actually the previous one too, the fixed amount has an annual escalator built in the contract. That's one element of this contract. We also have another element. If you look in the background, it's about $2 million or whatever. That's going to be actual, cost moving forward. There, that's a variable cost element for us. So, but that 2 point primarily, and I think that's how it works. It's primarily because of that annual escalator.
I guess I didn't realize the CPI was that low. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, hearing no other questions or comments, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Ms. Bailey, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, all those in favor and support of item 10C? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving right along to item 10D, recommend authorization to execute a 3rd amendment to the agreement with Amtrak for access and storage at Washington Union Terminal. Rich?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to Amendment May.
Yeah.
Yes, what we're seeking here is authorization, actually a recommendation to the commissions to amend our current agreement with Amtrak for, and this is for access into Union Station. That's one element, but access to and from, I guess, yes, at some point we need to leave Union Station, but also for storage of our equipment midday. Okay, so the commission's approved with your recommendation back in 2020. The base agreement, that agreement had a base 5 years, and then there was an option for 5 years. And so that base agreement expires here June 30th. Simply what the amendment does is it updates various sections within the existing agreement. And From a cost perspective, it doesn't really change the cost at all. We just continue on. There's some escalators in the existing contract for the fixed amount cost, but this is really just just updating different sections to make sure, you know, in some cases, updating names, titles, that type of stuff. But this amendment also has what we've worked out as a tentative schedule with Amtrak. As you know, over the course of the next 5 years, we will obviously be looking to transition at least our primary midday storage and stuff to Seminary Yard. And so that sort of sets forth a schedule in there. So that might be the biggest thing that's actually in there in the amendment. But other than that, it's like I said, just some various, unless you have some questions, whatever, you do have the agreement actually attached in the items. So that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Bomke.
So, Rich, are we typically closer to the 7,600 number where we would use credits if we fall below that with the addition of Seminary Yard? Where do we typically fall?
So we would, right now, we're within those limits with our current schedule.
Right.
Where we get, I'll just say, you know, in some cases where we would get lower, we wouldn't get higher. But you just brought up one, you know, when we finalize service plans, and there might be opportunities where we don't even go in Union Station, but like right now, there might be opportunities where we have some service disruptions, or Amtrak, of course, is having some issues within the terminal. We wanted to bring a train in. But that is part of, if you're familiar with PREA, the Passenger Rail Investment Improvement Act of 2008. It wasn't until last year that I actually memorized that or remember what that was. But anyway, there's a cost sharing methodology that's used at the Northeast Corridor Commission. Actually, and we weigh in. Mark has folks on his team and stuff that weigh in on this. But they use like a rolling 3-year average. So it's not like a 1-for-1. Like if last month we fell below that number, it's not like we get an instant credit. It actually just averages over time, and that will
Through okay.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Go to Young, yes.
Yeah, in the resolution, it's on page 15, there is what's called a new cost, but then it doesn't, that's the pre-authorization cost. Just wondering if there is a new maximum cost. It's not in here, so I was just wondering, how do you know what your new max is gonna be like? Is there any?
From the fiscal impact standpoint?
Actually, you have the maximum cost pre-authorization, but there is no new maximum cost still then. So.
Oh, that's on the exhibit 3 there. Yeah, so that's actually a form that we use. And that form is, let's just say there's, our equipment gets to, the coach yard or the midday storage, and the mechanical folks see something or, you know, recommend a repair or whatever. We can take that form and it establishes some very base rates, if you will. What we're trying to do there is I want to get Amtrak on it right now, right? So we exchange this form and we fill out, and there's some blanks in there. We would fill those out. Max cost would be, like, for an example, changing out a traction motor. If it says one traction motor is X amount of dollars, maybe we need 2 changed out. We're going to put the max cost in there, which means, and we're both going to sign off, which means if they get to that max cost, they gotta stop, and we have to have a conversation. So that's what that. Yeah, thank you. Very good.
No, I appreciate the question. And so I had a question and a comment. One is I was pleased to see the acknowledgement of the transition happening over time. Would there be a point, obviously it won't happen, I think, this year, but over the 5 years of this plan, where you'll come back and report back to the board sort of how that transition is playing out? Just because I'm curious, like how the numbers are changing, or what the impact is to the overall budget.
Absolutely. And I think that probably the most logical place to put that conversation is during the budget, right? So we will be, we will be projecting out, into the next fiscal year, and we'll have that. We will try to have those cost reductions, reflected in the budget, but then maybe just periodically coming back to you.
So would we have a discussion as early as the next budget process we start, sort of forecasting that out? Okay.
It could be as early.
Okay, and then the expectation of trains going in and out, does it include the highly anticipated Saturday service trains in the overall figure?
No, not right at this point.
Okay, so that's something else that will shift and move that number around, but we're cognizant of in the back and forth.
Yeah, and beyond that 7,600 and 8,000, there's a formula beyond those that we can get to. And again, but that's all established by the policy from the Northeast Corridor Commission. I don't believe, the last time I looked at it, don't quote me, I bring you some information. It's not, it's a cost reduction for the fewer amount of locomotives, but yet it's not a penalty for fewer trains. It's not necessarily a penalty for more trains, if that makes sense. In other words, incremental. It doesn't get too crazy on us.
Okay, well, I think this is well timed to 20. Hopefully we'll, sort of have a new universe about, for all of us going through Uniterminal. Any other discussion or comment on the item? Madam Clerk, I don't believe we have a motion on the floor yet.
To approve.
There it is, in a second. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Bailey, if you're still with us, how do you vote on the motion?
Aye, Madam Chair, and now I'm signing off. I'll be back.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Uh,
And then all those in the room in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item 10D passes. On to 10E, recommendation of approval of the amended and restated plan of delegation of authority to the VRE Operations Board. Rich, please discuss the item.
I should have made my comment about the month of May after this one. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair. Just simply put, this is a recommendation to the commissions, as it states, amended and restated plan of delegation. The recommendation here is not to change the plan of delegation. It's just actually to clarify the plan of delegation. So that's my simple summary, but I'd be remiss if I didn't allow the general counsel to weigh in on this particular item. So,
Madam Chair, I can't say better. It's exactly what Rich says. We're some points in time where some items in that plan of delegation were subject to varied interpretations as far as what authority the operations board had and what it didn't. So this was an opportunity to kind of clarify that. We've not looked at this really in detail since 2008. So it was an opportunity to come back and kind of refresh it. I will say to you that we had a Scrivener's error here as we went through various drafts. We ended up omitting one issue that we would ask that you basically include in this plan, which has to do with the approval by the commissions of the operating and maintenance contracts. The ones that were the subject of the amendments today. We think that those type of contracts are at sufficiently significant level that they should go to the commissions with the operations board recommendation. And that's not clear in here. So we wanted to make sure it's included.
No, I appreciate that. And as somebody who I was about to say is new to the board, but it's funny how fast time goes. It's been a few years now. But I think what I would ask for the group that's involved in sort of onboarding new members, I think this could be a really useful piece of that onboarding process, just to understand like what's the role of the ops board and then what goes back to the commissions. As the person who often presents back to NBTC, and for those of you who at PRTC, it doesn't always feel obvious, what we need full commission approval for and what we handle here. And so whoever part of your staff is that does that onboarding, I think this is a short enough, memo, but I think it might be useful to, new members to see in their onboarding. also does a really nice job, I thought, of laying out what we do, why we're here, what we approve, what we look over. It breaks out even, the hiring of certain employees, the review of the budget, agreements, and did a really nice job, I thought, of an overview of the role of this board and the role of the commissions we all sort of come from. So just from a knowledge perspective, I found this to be an interesting document as a board member. Sorry, I just saw Ms. Bailey text something. All right, is there any other questions or comments on item 10E? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amended and restated plan of delegation.
So move.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Holmes, a second by Ms. Bailey. Any other comments or questions, Mr. McIsaac?
Ms. Bailey's not here.
Oh, she's not here.
But she said something.
I heard her say something, but for safety's sake, let's get a second in the room. If we could. Okay, Ms. Vasquez Luna, thank you. There's our second. Mr. McIsaac?
I just want to, for the record, acknowledge that one item is going to be included in your motion.
Okay. Thank you for that. And the clerk will make note of that point. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? I'm going to call on Ms. Bailey on the off chance she is still here and wants to vote. Ms. Bailey, are you here? And how do you
I'm
vote?
still here. Aye, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And now I'm gone.
Okay. We have Ms. Bailey's vote in support on item 10E. All those in favor in the room? Sure. No, we'll pause.
So Steve, that language that you're recommending, that you discussed probably with NUTC council, it's not in there right now, correct?
It's not explicitly stated.
Can you explicitly state?
But I will revise the document to return that one line item in there that says the commissions continue to be responsible for approval of those two contracts.
Okay, so is that exactly what it would say?
That's exactly what it would say. It would be the operation.
Stated for the record.
The operations and maintenance contract would be awarded by the commission.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the clarification. Yeah, I mean, essentially nothing is changing about the delegation. There was an item not explicitly retained and stated, but it has been the existing practice for them to approve, and it will remain the practice for the commissions to approve. What I agree is two of the largest, most important contracts we award, for our operations and maintenance. So we'll move forward still with the motion and the second on the floor. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? And we're going to consider Ms. Bailey absent at this point. I know she said yes earlier, but okay, that motion is approved then. We're going to move on to our information items. Item 11A is the spending authority report. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here's the spending authority report. We had a couple, 2-3 items on there. If anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer them. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions or comments from the board on this item? All right, I don't hear any, and this is just an information item. So we'll move on to item 9B, an update on the Crossroads Maintenance and Storage Facility Administrative and Employee Welfare Building and Employee Parking Lot. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to toss directly to Dallas. Here's a very concise update. But you will, and once again, you will be seeing some potential actions here over the course of the next couple of months on this project. So just wanted to dust it off for you. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Warren, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for your time. You may remember coming to you recently about other works like this, but in sort of the cadence of sharing with you things that we're coming to with you soon. In the spirit of that, our Crossroads Maintenance and Storage Facility works we have coming soon, namely the employee parking and the administration employee welfare building to be added onto the site. We've combined these two phases of the project. This is all part of the master plan. I'll show you in the last slide here. But the project purpose, the objectives of this is for safety and security, improvements for the facility itself and our staff there, including our contract staff that come and go. Support expanded VRE the line of service. We know we have a number of cars coming at some point soon. This service will help improve the facility in that regard. Accommodate future system plan growth, which I'll show you there again in the master plan for the project. A few slides here that go together just to sort of animate what's coming and what we have planned for the facility. First will be the site clearing. We'll remove the tree coverage once we get out of the moratorium period, which is for the bat season, if you will. Then we will construct new employee parking on the facility here, and employees will move. You can see the current gravel lot, if you will, that was created as part of the loop construction project. They will move from there into the new parking lot, and then finally construct the new AEW building and access to it as part of the project. Moving the operations that currently in the small crew building that's been there since inception, essentially, those operations. Just quickly, a view of the building itself and how it would operate. Accommodate, so basically as crew members come in, they can change into the PPE uniforms. We have a place to collect used uniforms, send them out, returned, that sort of thing for our train crews. Locker rooms, right, other things. And then the other function is as they muster and go to the train, they have to receive orders, written orders, if you will, and then from the building into the equipment and depart the yard. All that happens through this facility that's just outside the gate, outside the fence, and secured. Next, office space, administrative office space, 5 offices here in the building. And then finally, a very useful 1,100 square foot training facility for crews. We have to do a lot of training, annual training for them. This would be used for that purpose. A lot of useful space in the facility. And then finally, some storage for equipment, other things that we need that come and go through the yard. This is just meant to demonstrate a view of what would be the future office overlooking. It's up on the hillside, overlooking the yard. You can see the maintenance storage facility. You can see the train wash and the S&I building and all the existing buildings through the window. Currently, we are in the site plan and building permit phase, working with the county to get those approved. Working through that process. The CM services will be solicited later this summer. We'd like to bring on the CM as we produce the final bid package, and then the final bid package later this year. And then finally, construction would begin in early spring, we think, early 2026. And then about a 2-year process for the total build out, if not less. And then finally, just to show you, this is the first phase, 2 phases technically of the overall master plan that would build out the facility for that future planned service. New track, we have the Lou facility provided some track for the new coming cars, but then a future track feature service for Congress. And then other faculties, including storage for the new equipment, storing new parts, if you will, for new equipment coming as well. So lots of things coming up into Crossroads maintenance storage facility. All right. That's all I have.
I have to tell you guys that your presentation skills continue to sort of get better and better. I like the subtle, and now we're doing, and it just kept layering on.
We'll credit Mr. Coker with those. He did a great job with that.
No, it's a lovely, presentation. I've got a question or two, but let me first open it up to the board. Does anyone have questions or comments for this on this item? Yeah, Ms. Famke.
Alice, I can't remember. What's the estimated cost that we're looking at for this facility?
I don't remember. I'll have to check. It's in the CIP budget, which I don't have to memorize, but I cannot remember the exact number.
It's in the 13 to 15 million range.
Yes.
I appreciate, I just couldn't remember. I didn't have a number in my head.
And that's total project cost.
Thank you. And I appreciate you giving kudos to the person that presented the slides. It's so good for employees to hear that they are recognized.
Any other, Mr. Carantoni?
So, great. A couple of questions. So how many employees would be served in average? So if you have a shift coming in,
I will offer, I'll turn to the exact number to Rich, but I would offer that in the overnight period, there's a constant flow of people through the yard, through the maintenance facility, right? So
at any given point, there will be
and so the train crews, the cleaning crews, the maintenance crews, overnight on nights, weekday nights, weekend nights, 50 to 60 cars is what we've allowed for. And that because you have some there and departing while others are arriving. So Rich, you want to add to that?
So the parking, I believe, is currently designed for a max 100 spaces. We're looking at growth.
Substantial.
Yeah. The AEW building is sized for slightly more than what our operation needs today.
The reason why I'm asking, because this building is kind of functionally well, and it's comparable with buildings that we have for our public works employees, etc. So one of the features of newer buildings or newer renovation is some sort of a low intensity, the compression room, so a nice place for people just chill for a moment. I saw the kitchen that was in the middle. I've seen more recent designs where the kitchen and the briefing room are kind of integrated, and so the question is, did we consult with our employees about what they would like to see? And is that?
Let me just say, the primary space in this building is essentially for employees to transition through.
Yeah, they wait under their next.
Yeah, so for example, train crews will come in, change their clothes, a lot of them, well. They have locker room space, that type of stuff. They will go over, get their orders, and then boom, they're out the door onto a train, right? And then they come back and they do the reverse, they sign out of their job and they actually get in their.
So they don't stay in the building.
They don't stay in the building.
There's very little time in the actual building for anything, for either maintenance workers going, they'll go through the building, go to the Lou building, for instance, or the S&I building, do their job, and then come back through the building on their way out. So there's very little time.
Very transitory.
So it's a very transient facility.
There'll be a couple offices in there that'll actually have folks that are,
Yeah, and that's
stationed in there, and we'll have, adequate, if you will, accommodations. And those folks have actually provided comments back on this.
Okay.
I think that's where the concept for the window came from.
That's right.
They want to see, they want to see.
So we don't get in trouble with Spotsylvania County. We haven't built that. That was just a mock.
Okay.
We
I was
haven't
gonna-
built that.
Yeah, that was just have a permit training over here.
Ms. Hayes, you had a question?
So, and I can talk to planning about this too, but, excuse my ignorance on this. So the building that's currently there, right, will stay. So you've got the Lou, right? But there's an office building too, correct?
Currently
I'm trying to get my bearings here.
So it's right here.
Yeah.
There's currently a very undersized, small.
Yeah, small. So okay, so what's gonna happen with that building?
Well, essentially, when we go in to expand these tracks, that building has to go away.
Okay. All right. And for longevity purposes, how many years do you think that this would be sufficient, this new building?
Well, this, again, we've sized this for, even slightly beyond, if you will, for our, current system plan update recommendation.
Okay.
So, this building here, that's currently for the crews, did everybody see where I was pointing right there? I mean, that's the original building.
Right, no,
For 30-something years.
Yeah, that thing is.
I could say that.
And is there,
We'll do fine.
and is there room, and I can talk to planning about this, but is there room for expansion of that? I see the parking lot there. It's, okay.
Yeah, it'll still be land and stuff up here. To the south end of the building and stuff. And remember, we have an existing temporary lot there, so that space doesn't go away.
Right.
Either, so.
And where are you guys with the county then, as far as like what
We
where are
have
you
a
in
site
the
permit.
process?
We have a site permit. We're about to make our building permit application within days. And probably a site permit amendment that goes, because these two were not originally intended to do at the same time. But now we want to do them both at the same time. It's so an efficiency. We want to amend the site plan to include the building because it's all within the same physical, same.
Okay.
That's where we are. And working through it with the county. And the SUP is complete. We did finish the SUP process, the special use permit.
Right, I recall that, yeah,
It's been completed.
right.
And now working with the building permit, building site plan and the building permit.
And as far as the aesthetics go for the building, because there are some historical elements around that area. I don't know if there's any opportunity to discuss that, what that would look like. I see what you have.
It's our.
Is there somebody you want us to discuss it with?
Yeah, I'll get
Okay,
with you
yeah,
on that.
yeah, absolutely,
If you would,
absolutely.
because there's some significant historical stuff around there.
We are architecturally congruent, I would say.
That would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that.
Dr. Young.
Did I miss something? Did you say something about a window? That's where the windows came in? So,
That window right here.
oh,
It look like there's something on this hill, what we just want to clarify, because we are in a public forum. We haven't constructed anything there.
Right.
This is
so that's where my mind was, and I was thinking, did you say this building, it says train crews, is there opportunity where we do maintenance on trains there too, or not?
At the Lou.
we have another building.
So what I was thinking was, when you mentioned the window, in my mind, I was thinking car wash, where you could actually see, the train and people working on trains. And I was thinking like, wow, that's great, but that's not what you all thought about.
So this will,
But that's not a bad idea.
looking over the entire facility.
Dr. Young, if you haven't done the system tour yet and all that, but you have got to see the Lou.
Yeah.
Because it is amazing what
Okay.
they do there, and that's what also just, I'm not gonna say the right thing, but the grinding of the wheels and all that. I mean, that is amazing. That location is great. We should have another event there because,
Want to hold a meeting there?
Board meeting.
I would
I
love
think
that.
that would be great,
I would love that.
because
We could
it
do it. I don't
really
know.
is.
Sorry, Sarah.
It really is very unique.
You all should see Sarah beaming in the back of the room. That's poetic about the Lou. Her smile was like wattage here.
Would love to see that.
It is quite impressive, and I don't think we make enough stink about it.
Yeah.
Where we really should be. I think that even our citizens and our commuters should know exactly what we do there, because it's pretty impressive.
On that note, we had a film crew from
JLA.
JLA
Yeah.
that actually, Sarah took them on a tour and stuff, and they were equally just blown away.
Yeah.
And you guys will actually, I think, start seeing it in a couple of weeks. They did a
Do it.
I think it was,
thing on it.
I think there was a
Neck of
clip
the
in
woods
Karen's
down
last
there, right?
update.
I was just
I
in
think it must have been
Harrison, we need to talk about that.
Ms. Baumke had a comment, and then I had a quick comment. Yeah.
So I think if you have a meeting down there, I'm probably not gonna be with you then. I think it would be really cool to also invite Mr. Lou,
Oh.
Exactly.
because there is named after a man who was very involved in VRE. And I met his daughter there that day, and I said, hey, what are you doing here? And she said, well, Lou is my father. And I am in a spin class with her. So that was our connection. And he's just a dear older gentleman now, but you should definitely meet Lou because he goes with the facility.
That's right. Like I said, we never let you really go.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
Mr. Parentonis, did you have another comment?
Yeah, a couple of pedantic. So heating, cooling is all conventional, electric. I mean, this is
And terribly efficient too. Yes.
it's a great place for a good heat pump. I mean, an efficient one, not the regular ones. So, but still fossil fuels for heating, right? So gas for heating or all electric? All electric. Oh, that's good. Southwestern exposure, I mean, frontage, excellent for solar arrays.
There are provisions, we haven't included solar for now, but there are provisions, not necessarily on the building, but around the building, the hillside there, south facing slopes, and we look at these, we did a solar study a number of
That could be.
but look at these sorts of things, and the Lou specifically, I mean, we evaluate these things. The Lou building uses a combination of LED lighting and natural light and actually controls the light level on the floor through a very sophisticated system. So we integrate these sorts of things and think of these sorts of things as.
That's great. It's good for us to know, by the way.
Yeah, that was a question along those same lines. The parking lot is unfortunately, and this, I know this is an early rendering, but to the extent, it's going to contribute to heat, and do we have visions of even shade trees or other efforts to sort of mitigate some of the runoff?
Permit, there's the specific county requirements for green space within the parking, shade space within the parking, for sure, yes, that's all.
Okay, that'd be great, because I appreciate this is a very early rendering, but hopefully as the renderings come forward, we'll see that fleshed out a little bit. And Ms. Holmes, yes, go ahead.
Along Mr. Caratonis's line of questioning, I also think, like, have we looked at permeable surfaces? I know that that's a little more.
We have people created, what we've found about permeable concrete, asphalt concrete is it is a maintenance, it is difficult to maintain. That's one of the concerns. We've looked at underground storage. There are very specific stormwater requirements we've met here. I would say exceeded the dry pond. You saw the grading, part of that grading was to create a stormwater retention basin, which is an easement. It's deeded. There's several of them on the site today that we maintain. So yes.
No, I appreciate that. I think, VRE's, product is a net, contributor sort of mitigating climate change. And so I think, I'm glad to hear that sort of not just our trains, but our building philosophy and our supportive structures bear that in mind as well. And, we encourage Pennsylvania to hold our feet to the fire, as much as possible with regard to these issues. And just to close the loop on this sort of, inviting people into the loo. It sounds like there actually is some openness and interest to having a board meeting there at some point, if that's a possibility. I know there isn't necessarily, there's logistics to that, but it's a way for people to see it. Yeah, or separate tour. And then I would also just lift up, I know WMATA does there's the top 1% of riders get like some special day where they're brought in and, they get a special tour. They toured the Alexandria facility. There's a very cool Alexandria facility now that shows all the trains. And so I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to identify our longest tenured riders or some other metric and invite them out for a special tour. We can get some coverage for it, but these are people who, maybe if we can find people who rode with us all through the pandemic, that sort of thing. I just think it is an impressive facility. Alexandria recently had its City Academy graduation where residents get to go through all our departments. And without fail, the thing they talk the most about is our dash bus facility where we clean the buses. People just love seeing the big, bus wash. We're all just kids at heart at the end of the day. So this is just an information item. There's no action. Thank you, for the presentation and for staff. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. So with that, we are moving on to 10C, additional information on the system plan 2050 update.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I do not believe Nick needs any introduction. Well,
2050 Nick.
2050 Nick. Yeah. So just a little table setting here real quick. So from the last meeting, I'd reached out, was taking any kind of input feedback from you guys. Also promised to send to you comments, feedback that we've gotten through or received through the process. We've done all that. So what Nick's going to do is just briefly go through concisely the comment and feedback portion of this process, and then just wanted to leave you with the once again with what is if we were to sit here in front of you today with a recommendation to adopt, what are we asking you to adopt? So wanted to give that to you one more time as well. So with that, and I will just say, Nick was similar to several folks, maybe a little under the weather and stuff. So I appreciate you being here. And when I say concise, he may be even more concise because of some limiting factors there. So take it away, Nick.
Well, good morning, members of the board, Madam Chair. I want to draw your minds back to June of 2023, when I think I won the award for the longest operations board meeting presentation. And just recap some of the feedback that we got on the system plan survey, because we did what we called a general population survey, as well as a very broad outreach campaign to both our member jurisdictions, our external stakeholders, riders, just to show you all how we aligned, I think more specifically the 2030 concept, but also the 2050 concept with what we heard around the region. And I'll point you to some of these salient bullets here that, travel time and reliability really were the most important deciding factors for when the general public decides, am I going to get on transit or am I going to drive? We know that most regional travelers don't use VRE. They're going at different times of day to different places, but the perception or reality that it's faster to drive or that it's more, I hate to say it, but more reliable to drive was keeping people off of the service. And so, what we did is we crafted the 2030 service concept, with that in mind. In a parallel effort, a couple of years ago, we actually reached out to our riders, our current riders, and we said, you guys are riding the service every day. What would you like to see? Not in 2050, but like within your career, within your, ridership lifetimes. And, resounding, the plurality of folks indicated that they wanted to see more express service. That goes hand in glove with the concept that the perception that if we give people a faster trip, a more efficient, a more reliable trip, that they're more likely to take the service. But then interestingly enough, the most common response when we said on weekdays, what would you prefer? I know the colors are a little hard to see at the bottom, but trust me that the 37% is more trains to DC in the AM and Virginia in the PM. So at least in the near term, people still want that peaked service, but just for the headways to be a little bit shorter, so that they have the flexibility to choose, well, maybe I'm not on the 6 o'clock train, maybe I'm on the 6:20 or the 6:40, rather than having to wait another hour to get on the train. So we definitely took that into consideration when we were building the service concept. One last thing on the feedback summary here, I just want to, and this was a slide that I presented back in June of 23, but just how many different groups we consulted and what they said. And I think one of the things that was striking here is for both expanded weekday and weekend service. There was almost, a unanimous or resounding support for those things. The check boxes are not mutually exclusive. There's folks that said one thing or didn't say another, but generally speaking, the majority or the plurality of the categories on the left offered resounding support for the categories up above. So, and happy to go through this if anyone has any questions about this at the end of the presentation. But as Rich mentioned, what we would be asking you all to adopt if we were doing it today is, of course, the 2050 system plan. And what that's comprised of is, two main components, right? It's the 2030 near-term service alternative. That's what we can do with the Long Bridge being constructed, with the Transforming Rail in Virginia, phases 1 and 2 pieces of infrastructure, Seminary Yard. But also, we would be asking you all to endorse the 2050, what we're calling service vision. And that is not a commitment, certainly not a financial commitment, but it is endorsing a concept of operations with which VRE will use as the flag plant in the ground to grow towards 2050. And both of those things, the 2030 service concept and the 2050 service vision, are comprised of financial forecasts, identification of the capital and operating needs, as well as the service plans. And I just want to reiterate, as Mr. Schofield did in the Finance Committee meeting last month, that the plan is not a budget, and that we would not be asking you to commit to a certain level of financial obligation for this system. So just real quick, the last 3 slides I have here are the comparisons of the weekday service frequencies and the weekend service frequencies from our currently adopted plan, which was adopted back in 2014, to the
2050 recommended plan. And you'll notice that there's some similarities. There are some differences. Obviously, number of daily trains is rather significantly higher than what we had adopted back in 2014, but that's largely because we're proposing to expand the non-peak period service. The previous plan was still very much peak period, peak direction focused with very little off-peak service, but we're hoping to embellish the off-peaks because of what we heard that, folks are not using VRE because it just doesn't exist at the times that they, would like to travel. With respect to service span, I mean, we're talking very, very similar spans of service when you break down the different service periods as System Plan 2040. So we're really not doing anything, we think, particularly radical here. Still maintaining those peak periods and peak directions, but then, offering some olive branches to the folks who really want to take transit in the late nights. That's a growing market. That's really something that we didn't see as much of in the 2040 service plan. But certainly as we move into 2050, looking to provide rail service out of DC in the evenings to accommodate events, sporting events, and late night concerts and that type of thing. And then finally here, I think the big comparison on weekend service is that in the System Plan 2040 there was none proposed, and we are proposing hourly weekend service in both directions. I think the big takeaway here is the highly anticipated Saturday service, limited number of trains. That is what we hope will grow at a market-based rate into the full weekend, Saturday and Sunday hourly service. It's an incremental approach. It ties growth in the service to, growth in demand, but we feel that there is definitely demand for that even now. So that is it. As Rich said, concise and to the point. Apologies for my scratchy throat. As Rich said, I'm getting over a little cold here, but happy to take any questions.
I just want to note 8 minutes. So stop giving Nick a hard time over. So thank you for the presentation. And what I appreciated about these slides was it's useful every time we talk about this, I think, to go back to the beginning. What are we doing here? Why are we doing it? What's the process? So I do appreciate those level setting slides at the beginning and then the comparisons back. Questions, I think I saw, go ahead.
So every time I go through this, I find more information and try to see if there are answers to my questions before I ask them, and there are. And so one of the questions I had, and I just wanted to share with you all the ones that I've had, was that on the feedback summary, how long did it take you to get this feedback summary together? And do you continue to update the feedback summary? That's one question.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. So we actually were consistently updating the feedback summary throughout the plan's 3 phases. And then after the plan, the kind of formal planning process concluded, we were still receiving comments from the general public, some very enthusiastic citizens, and we were updating it as those comments were coming.
Yeah. And so the other question I had, I'm looking at the check marks. You have general public, current VRE writers, and lapsed VRE writers. And to unpack that, I'm a VRE and been for years before I stopped working up north. But one of the issues is, and I don't know if you have that, is that the fear of not being able to get back home. You get up there, but not being able to get back home unless you're like me, a slugger, at the same time, so you have a backup plan, right? So that's one of the issues. But do you, have you looked at, for example, when you talk about the current VRE, and then you say general public, I don't know who the general public is because you're doing marketing the same time. Are you able to get more people into the fold to increase the opportunity for individuals to come into this VRE ridership? Because it seems like that's like a sticking point. It feels like, they're interested, but yet you can't get them to come in.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of how we engaged the general public. So in the first and second phases of the system plan back in 2023, and yeah, it was mostly 2023, we went out and did some tabling events. And we put ourselves in places where, you know, we knew that there weren't going to be a lot of current VRE riders in that part of the region. One of the best examples was the Mosaic District. We planted ourselves right there in front of the Target and just talked to people. And we said, you know, there was a farmer's market going on, and it was a great opportunity just to say, do you know anything about VRE? How do you get to work today? I mean, we had some wonderful conversations with people. Actually, there were surprisingly a lot of people who did take VRE that came up to us because they recognized our logo and everything. But those were examples of the kinds of approaches that we took during the planning process to really suss out, you know, commuters that weren't riding VRE. And we know how to get our riders. We stick a survey in front of their face every April or May and say, tell us what you think. That's pretty easy, but the non-riders was a challenge. But I think through some of those outreach efforts back in 23, we were able to get a decent amount of responses.
Yeah, and then the only other thing with the way how the federal government is getting rid of individuals in their jobs, a lot of the companies paid into this, the VRE system for individuals to get up north. Has that been in effect so far?
So I can't speak unless, Rich, you wanted to talk to the most recent survey, if there's some data, or Chris, if there's data on, you know, the percentage of riders that are.
We'll have that data next month.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? So go ahead, Ms. Mackey. Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out in my brain, under VRE board members, weekend service, why that isn't checked.
Right.
Help me understand.
So, yeah, and I figured somebody might ask about this. So when we, I can't remember which month it was, but I believe we issued a Survey Monkey survey to the then operations board. I think it was in 2023. And we asked some questions, and it escapes me the specific questions that we asked. There were specific comments that some of the board members made at the time, and we summarized them as best we can. I feel like even in that survey, there were comments about weekend service. So that might just be a longstanding typo in the chart there. But yeah.
We could just get a consensus right now if everybody thinks okay.
I'll add a check mark. Yeah.
And just recently, and I think you may have received a summary of the outreach that was done, a written summary, and I reviewed the board member survey. And what we asked the board members to rank 1, 2, 3, a variety of different types of service improvements. Weekend service was there. There were responses, but it wasn't always the #1 response. So I think that might be also part of what's being reflected here. It wasn't that nobody wanted weekend service, but this, in trying to be concise on board member viewpoints, these are the ones that had the most #1 rankings.
Okay, so I might say that we all still had COVID fog back then, and we were all trying to figure out how are we gonna pay our bills. So, if there's a consensus that we want weekend service with the board here, Ms. Chair, could we get that box checked? Because I think it looks odd.
Yeah.
Yes, Madam Chair.
So like, I think you're right. At that point in time, I mean, we're 2 years after, right? The ridership was not going up at this expected level that we wanted it to. Adding another layer
Right.
was another thing that was gonna drain it, right?
Right.
To some degree. I do think if we're trending up, and we are, and there is a need for the weekend stuff, but I'd almost, and I'm fine with putting a check there, but just to circle back, like what long-term financial, I want some more information on that too.
Before.
As we go, well, I mean, it's a check mark. I mean, I think, you know, it's not like we're signing a contract forever. We're not putting anything in blood, but at the same time, I think we need to have a little bit more understanding of where we are today, what the trend looks like compared to pre-pandemic, and what this would bring. I know we're a couple years off from doing any of this anyway, right? Saturday?
We're,
Oh, I hope not, but.
we're within the zone.
Let's say we approve.
We're within
Yeah.
the zone.
Well, I wasn't here last month, so I might have missed something on this, but what are,
We'll catch that here in a little bit.
okay, but,
Yeah.
but I would like some more financials around some of this, but I'm happy with being like, okay, that's fine, just as a concept.
Yeah, Ms. Franklin.
Yeah, so obviously we just did bike to work day on yesterday. And honestly, that was the number one question we were getting, like, hey, when are we gonna do, or are you gonna do weekend service when? Da, 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 da. And thankfully I could tell them, we are inching towards that. So, it definitely should be a check mark, even if you support it or not, the residents out there definitely do. Especially since with all the challenges with Metro, obviously that's not coming to this region anytime soon. So VRE really is gonna be that conduit on the weekends to get people to and from DC, more efficiently, especially as the games kick off and things of that nature. So just flagging that, it's almost like whether we want it or not, people are asking for it.
What is the timing? I apologize if I'm not up to speed on this. What is the timing of?
We are still looking at or pursuing as we talked about before, just a very truncated or very small Saturday service just to try to, measure the market, gain the market and stuff like that. As I stated before, we do contractually, after we complete Plan 1, the collective, we complete Plan 1 infrastructure improvements. That's where the weekend part comes in, both Saturday and Sunday, and we contractually have those. Those aren't, that's not going to be available to us for a couple of more years. So we're still looking at a interim solution and not to I guess, maybe as a prelude, it might be good that we get to the next item on the board, on our agenda, and you might get a little bit more information.
No, it's a good dialogue. I mean, to everyone's point, I think this board, through our votes over the last 18 months and through our conversations, has indicated our support and interest in this. And I think in a positive way, that support and interest from this board has been received in the community. Even Visit Alexandria in Alexandria is keyed in on this as a marketing tool that they intend to promote. So, and I get questions. So I think it is the desires there in the community. This board has shown support for it. I think it's more of infrastructure challenges rather than budgetary ones that are guiding the rollout on this. And so to the extent, I think we should continue to look for updates, from VRE to the board about where we are, and continue to let the public know that we're supportive, of seeing this investment. But I do think it's going to take a little more updates and a little more progress on some major projects. This is just an information item. Thanks, Nick, for soldiering through and making the presentation. If there's no other comments or questions, we will move on to item 12 on our agenda. Before we do that, I want to note and welcome Mr. Stork, who I believe has joined us virtually. Mr. Stork, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, so Mr. Stork is here, and I wanted to put that on the record because he will roll into item 12 with us in a moment.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, section 2.2-3711.A6 and 29 of the Code of Virginia. I move that the VRE Operations Board convene in a closed meeting for the purposes of discussing the investment of public funds where competition and bargaining is involved. Where if made publicly initially, the financial interests of the commissions would be adversely affected in discussing the terms and scope of a contract involving the expenditure of public funds for discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the commissions.
All right, there's been a motion. Dr. Young has made a second. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Bagley?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey's not here. Mr. Stork?
Aye. Here.
Ms. Hayes,
Aye.
Ms. Bonke,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Aye.
Mr. Gordy,
Aye.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Carantonis.
Aye.
Ms. Vasquez Luna. Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Ms. Mensing.
Aye.
And Dr. Young.
I agree.
And Madam Chair, that passes unanimously.
All right, we are going to move into closed session. I'd ask any staff that has not been previously asked to stay to depart. And let's try to restart in say 4 minutes if possible at 10:30. 10:34. And Mr. Stork, we'll.
Oh, that's totally good.
I do have individual.
We,
But I won't. Today.
That's the regular thing for the chair.
You have to certify the.
Zero.
That's what I refuse to certify closed session.
Seriously.
Like, you think the number of the
Back down.
Yeah.
You're gonna have 15% always.
The lawyer, yes, we're talking about, it's fine. He was like, no, I don't think.
When I say, so there's now, keep in mind.
But
You got ready line, spare.
Even make a recast a vote, yes, no, or there's wouldn't vote.
My goal was always.
Thank you. My closed session right now.
First person to be in.
Was like we would.
Audio check. Can you still hear us? At least with us, we would all vote. Okay, so and so.
Technically 12.
Vote, like if no one
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
to the room, like.
So maybe
We do a midlife.
closed session is foiable. I mean, this was 10 years ago. Foyer doesn't work for us anymore.
It's crazy.
I mean, the majority of us.
Don't take the same.
I mean, I'm trying to.
Moment that you.
And if you want to do the loose, I do want to, I do want to have.
Yeah.
Ever.
Ever happens.
Go off spots, so then you can't.
Yeah, I was there.
The hill, that's where.
It was literally. It was such a 260, but.
It's great. And. Get out. What's around there.
My second meeting ever, any sort of meeting, I was fresh and. They're like, no, it's just normal, and they're like, no.
Here, I gotta make a phone call. 3951, but.
Pretty has.
Tons of fun, just.
There are options.
It's like, just, like, we're thinking of something.
The one guy apparently called to BML and was gonna.
Yeah.
Just-
And nothing ever did. Oh,
With a roof on, something like that.
it was fine.
Yeah, I also.
Oh, BML.
Expert really want.
Yeah, no, for us.
I want to make their point.
It just blows up on
Yeah.
them.
Until the people want to.
That's one glad if
They
you
use that, yeah.
in contact.
Yeah.
Well, also.
Yeah. And, no, not trying to vote no on from Frederick.
All right. Well done, IT. Ms. Hayes.
Yes, the Virginia Operation Board certified that to the best of each member's knowledge and with no member dissenting at the just concluded closed session. One, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act were discussed. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard and discussed or considered.
Is there a second to Mrs. Hayes' motion? Here, Mr. Carantonis, Mr. Clerk, could please call the roll.
Yes. Ms. Bag,
Aye.
Ms. Bailey's not here. Ms. Bonke,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin. Aye. Mr. Gordy. Ms. Hayes.
Aye.
Ms. Holmes.
Aye.
Mr. Carantonis. Ms. Vasquez Luna.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin, Ms. Mensing.
Aye.
Mr. Stork. Dr. Young.
I agree.
And Mr. Stork, if you're on mute, if you could unmute yourself.
I didn't,
Great.
you got it now,
Okay, so
hopefully
that's
good.
a-
Okay, yep.
That's a unanimous certification. All right, that gets us to Operation Board Members' time. I will start to my left. of the
Yes.
page. All right.
Happy birthday, George.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
Good. This is actually your surprise birthday.
That's Thank you all for coming together.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a lovely day. I'm also, again, just want to acknowledge Bike to Work Day. Had great turnout, at least by Woodbridge standards. And had some good conversations with some VRE riders as well as some of our bikers. And it was a good day. Weather turned out perfectly. And so had a good time at 6 a.m. talking to residents. So thank you for VRE being out there, and want to just thank you for your service here to VRE for all of these years, and certainly going to miss you in those email reminders, and thank you for all the work that you've done for VRE.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Madam. I thought that in Woodbridge it's called Bike to Train Day.
Okay.
Changing the name.
T-shirts.
Ms. Mensing?
Sam, I wanted to thank VRE for being out at Manassas Park, Bike to Work Day yesterday, and Amanda, she's fantastic. Speaking to VRE riders, and yes, we are Bike to Train in Manassas Park. too,
Right.
so.
Tomorrow is Nokesville Day,
Oh, nice.
9 until 2, and we also have the parade at 11. Love to have folks come out and celebrate all great things, ag and rural and Prince William County, and yeah, look forward to having a great day tomorrow.
Great. Thank you to Karen for everything, and welcome to Lindsay. And also thank you for a wonderful, great train race. I've heard nothing but good things.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll continue to advocate for the weekend service as our residents in Manassas continue to ask for that, and look forward in one day having that. I'm looking forward for Monday to see our chairman, I'm sorry.
Executive
Yeah,
director.
executive director, yes. Trying to be appropriate. But no, looking forward, we want to hear, and I think, there's a great update to be made, and I appreciate you accepting to be there. The yesterday event was great. It's always great in Manassas, great pictures. I wasn't able to attend, but I love it and I appreciate it. And my last thing is June the 7th is our 31st annual Historic Manassas Railway Festival. So thank you for being, part of it as the excursions go back and forth. I would say, young and adults, everybody enjoyed that. And, I hope it doesn't rain. So people is able to fully enjoy that day. So everybody's invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for all the work that you've done all these years. We appreciate you. Hope you have a great retirement. Hope you have application pending, and welcome Lindsay, and happy birthday, Sheriff Bagley.
It's always fun. Happy birthday, Sarah. It's always wonderful. And I just wanted to say thank you to Karen, especially when I was chair. I appreciated your professionalism. You're very agile when you're out at an event, whether it's raining or it's windy, and your ability to kind of pivot and, deal with things as the weather is changing or the people are coming in droves that we didn't expect, just really appreciated that. So, and Lindsay, welcome. You're going to have big shoes to fill. And as we know, we have many opportunities with VRE coming up with our 2050 plan. So you will never have a dull moment, let me tell you. And then I have two other things. I would just like to say, as many of you know, we in Stafford County, starting July 1, we only have one seat on VRE. And since I am not running for reelection, I think that it's in the best interest of my constituents in the county to allow my good friend, Dr. Young, to continue with the seat on VRE until the end of the year. So my last board meeting will be the June meeting. So cheer out. Anyway, and then also, I just wanted to put a bug in everybody's ear and address this to the chairman and to Rich. You know, we have so many things going on, as we just discussed in closed session, and everything that takes place at our meetings. Would it be possible for VRE staff to come down and maybe once a year, maybe in the fall, to just present to our boards? Because many, and now we're gonna have one board member versus two. I think that our staff needs to hear from VRE. Obviously, our VRE contribution comes from gas tax monies, but I think it's really important for the public. And, you know, we're in that kind of PR mode, if you will. I think it would be good for them to hear from staff, because you guys are always doing great things. So that's just a little plug in your ear. Thank you.
Well, I will give Meg a proper send off in June, but her voice and certainly will be missed, and it's been a valuable perspective. And I know we've enjoyed sitting here sort of trading, you know, back and forth about coming down your way and coming up north. So I will certainly miss your presence on the board and my interactions with you, but we'll have a proper fetting in June. I just wanted to, on the bike to work day conversation, Alexandria had a huge turnout as well. And I'll have to have a count to see if we beat Arlington actually. Now I'm curious. We had, I think, 6 stops around the city. So yeah, so it was very well attended, but I will say I got questions about bringing bikes onto the train and indicated, you know, we're open to bikes, bring them on, you know, any train, anytime. But I think what it got rolling for me is, as these trains fill up again, you know, we have to start thinking about, maybe we have to revisit that policy. Not that we're not welcoming bikes, but exactly how do we accommodate a train full of people again and all of their bikes. I think there's room for everybody. And it's an opportunity to, you know, to think about that. But it was just exciting to hear, you know, the connectivity people are thinking about and using their bike to get to a station. So thank you for all the well wishes. It's kind of like being back at school for your birthday. People say happy birthday. So I appreciate that. With that, we'll adjourn, and I want to just, oh, Mr. Stork, I'm so sorry. Mr. Stork, are you there? And did you have any comment?
I'm here and just wanted to wish you, Sarah, a very happy birthday, and sorry I missed everybody today, but I will be back in June to hopefully honor and celebrate Meg's work on the board for so many years. So thank you.
Thank you. And so I just want to remind everybody that the CLO selection committee is meeting basically immediately after this. We'll take a brief break, but without any objection, this meeting is adjourned. Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry. Do I need a motion on that? Noted. No, I appreciate it. Sure.
My affirmation,
As we call or the rush of those.
Yeah.
And I think everybody agrees.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Selection committee to order. We are online and open to the public. There are 5 members present, establishing quorum here. If I could hear a motion to approve the electronic participation of Supervisor Stork and Supervisor Bailey. So moved. Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor in the room of that motion? Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, so we have approved the participation of Supervisor Stork and Bailey remotely. Supervisor Stork, can you confirm you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm present
And I don't believe
virtually.
Supervisor Bailey is here yet, but we will, certainly confirm when she arrives and have her join the certification after the closed session, should she participate in the closed session.
So question, Chairman Bailey, Bagley, if she doesn't get on, is she locked out of the closed session?
I wouldn't see why she couldn't join we've approved, if Steve, if you want to weigh in, I've approved her participation.
She can participate. She'll notify these guys and they'll admit her into the closed session.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Right, they'll have to enter the room to do that.
Okay, so understood. So just to recap process-wise what's happening here, we're going to, in a moment, move to go to closed session. And I just realized I don't actually have.
On this next slide.
Is it? Okay, thank you. So once we move to go to closed session, when we get, just sharing with the group process-wise, when we hear Ms. Bailey wants to join us, we will briefly pause the conversation, allow IT to come in, have her join, and then we'll restart the conversation. But we will stay in closed session during all of that. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to review, go back 1 second if you wouldn't mind, Brandon, thanks. So this is the agenda. As you can see, we've moved through 1, 2, and 3. We're going to move into closed session. We are going to reconvene in public session and potentially have dialogue after that, depending on the resolution of the closed session. Any questions about our agenda process? Okay, so let's go to the next slide if we could. Okay, so I'm going to move pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2-3711.ai of the Code of Virginia. I move the General Counsel, Chief Legal Officer Selection Committee of the VRE Operations Board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing candidates for the position of VRE General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Dan, your vote on the motion? All right. So any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, so we are going to move to closed session. The door is closing and we're going to take this meeting offline, and I'll give everybody a moment to do that. It would be my preference if the committee had an opportunity to meet without staff in the room, at least initially. And if we need staff back in the room, we will pop that's what I posted to social media, that I'm spending my birthday, as I love to, talking transit.
Mr. Stork, can you hear us?
Jan, are you with us?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm on.
Okay. All right, so can I get the slide showing?
Brandon, do you use the clicker? Or you got it?
All right, we are reconvening out of closed session. The General Counsel, Chief Legal Officer Selection Committee certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge and with no individual member dissenting at the just concluded closed session, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Freedom of Information Act were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. and it's a roll call vote. I need everyone individually to certify that. Ms. Cockrell, would you
Second.
mind? Oh, there's a motion, and then we need everybody to certify. Would you mind?
Okay, Ms. Bagley,
Aye.
Ms. Hayes,
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Ms. Holmes. Aye. Ms. Bonke, Mr. Stork.
Aye.
Okay, so we have reconvened now in open session. There is one final matter for the board to discuss, which is to the extent that it has been shared with the committee, I'm sorry, not the board, but to the extent that the committee has had a re-advertisement process shared with us, we would just like to ask staff if they can consider and reevaluate any ways to potentially expedite that process. So we are not initiating that process. We just want to know what our options might be, if any, to expedite the process as outlined in the document shared with us.
Advance the slide. Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
So this is the process that I was alluding to, and the committee is just curious and, asking what skills can be brought to bear, what creative thinking can be brought to bear and to be clear, we are not re-advertising at present, but should we do that at the conclusion of this process? So we don't expect an answer now. We just wanted to put that out there, and we know we needed to do that as part of an open session process. So again, I don't expect you guys to have an answer, but.
No, I mean, to answer the question again.
Yeah, so the question has to be asked in open session, and so that's all I'm doing is acknowledging you all have prepared for us a potential re-advertisement process. We have concerns, or, we would like it to move a little faster if possible, so we were just asking if you're able to poke at it, look at any creative options. Yeah.
Madam Chair, one question come up as we were sort of thinking this through was the committee's openness to having a meeting in August, because we were trying to avoid August because it's traditionally a quiet time. If you folks are open to meeting to review candidates and to possibly do interviews, we know that would expedite it.
I think,
would be willing.
yeah, I think if the proposed expedited schedule, it requires August participation, I think we're seeing a general, assent to that. But we're not binding anybody to do it. But that's not a reason not to include that in the research. And again, to be clear to the public and anyone, we are not initiating this process. We had just asked what it entailed, and now we're asking if there's any way to expedite it. With that, if there's no other business for the good of the order, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, bye, Dan. Sorry.
Thank you. No, all good. Thank you, Sarah. Happy birthday. You spent, as you said, you spent the day as you live it. So all good.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
95. Yeah. Quick. I got